This sitting is resumed. Prior to the suspension, this Honourable Chamber was debating the second reading of the Appropriation Bill 2019. Let us return to that. Honourable Member for St. Michael South.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I want to say how pleased I am, first of all, Mr. Speaker, sir, to associate myself with the budget that was presented in here by the Honourable Prime Minister. In many ways, the best budget that I have heard in my life. You know, a budget will never all be daisies and roses. It will never be. But in these circumstances, the worst that Barbadians can say of this budget is that it is fair and that it is balanced. And that should tell you a lot about the quality of the budget that was delivered in this honourable place, Mr. Speaker, sir. I am pleased also to associate myself with the conduct of the members who spoke before me and the manner with which they treated to this material, Mr. Speaker, sir. I believe that what Barbadians have witnessed in relation to what we have done, not only with the budget, but in the way we've conducted ourselves generally, is to see a Barbados Labour Party government that has only their interests at heart. And this is what I mean, Mr. Speaker, sir, when I say that the government has to be transformational. If that budget was not transformational, then nothing is. It was a transformational budget, Mr. Speaker, sir, and it is important because we are dealing, Mr. Speaker, sir, with an impersonal, perhaps even cruel world environment that treats the small island developing states almost any way they like. And we brought a budget that said, this is who we are as Barbadians, and we will set the path for ourselves. And that in the face of many, many challenges, you saw a government that has confidence not only in itself, but in the people of this country. And Mr. Speaker, sir, I don't enjoy having to do it because I came this afternoon hoping to hear a good presentation from the opposition leader. I came expecting that the opposition leader, having had time to prepare himself, would deliver the material that he was given in a way that reflected some understanding of the facts and of the issues. I had hope, Mr. Speaker, sir, because I really do wish him well. I had hope, Mr. Speaker, sir, that he would treat to his given material in a way that would at least give the impression that he understood a little bit about the economy and what we came here to do in very challenging circumstances. To say that I was disappointed, sir, would be an understatement of the year. And I heard him say he would not quote any biblical passages, but you know, in Leviticus, when the priest is talking to the leper, you know, the priest says, it is unclean, unclean. And that is almost the way he was treating to his material, like he didn't want to touch it. You know, I had hoped that as the speech got a little bit longer and he got into his speech, Mr. Speaker, sir, that perhaps we would get a little bit more from the opposition leader. But it's now becoming his style, Mr. Speaker, sir, to come and drop remarks here and remarks there and innuendo and all kinds of insinuations about people and about this Labour Party. Mr. Speaker, sir, time and time again, and then accuse the Barbados Labour Party of being the one that is ad hoc. What if you did not hear a bundle of ad hocism, because that was his word, coming from the opposition leader today, Mr. Speaker, sir? Yeah, it was in his style. It wasn't his syntax. It was his given script. Picking at people. It has become his style, Mr. Speaker, sir. And I was hoping, I really was, that it would get a little bit better. You know, the Honourable leader is from St. Michael West, and perhaps he believes this wild, wild west, because he starts shooting wild and... Mr. Speaker, sir, we have to do better than that. When I was young and I did silly things, you know, when children were playing, they would say, you are a joker smoker. A joker smoker. And and I feel as if, Mr. Speaker, sir, I have some important things to discuss tonight. I do. And I felt like to listen to 3 hours of the presentation by the Honourable Leader, Opposition Leader, after I listened to my Prime Minister deliver for 5 hours and 30 minutes the most profound presentation, at no point was it boring. At every single step of the way, educational, informative, well-conceived, well-articulated, well-thought out, well-delivered. And the opposition leader, I said to the others beside me, perhaps it was like asking Liat to make a transatlantic flight. You can't do it in 5 hours, 3 hours. You can't do that which is beyond yourself. But Mr. Speaker, sir, I wish to press on because I feel as if I have important business to discuss this evening. Mr. Speaker, sir, I have the privilege of leading a new transformative ministry, the first minister in the world of a blue economy. And I feel that I will have to speak to some of the things that we are doing there. My mother used to say to me all the time, you know, you must speak when you have things to say. Clearly some people speak when they just want to say things. But I want to speak because tonight, Mr. Speaker, sir, I have things to say. And I want to begin, as I always do, by saying a special thanks to the people of St. Michael South, who allow me to be here. There is a team we call Team Kurt that I know is probably listening to me. I want to say thanks to my team for working day in and day out to put me in this honorable place, Mr. Speaker, sir. I want to thank them for the work that they have put in and continue to put in St. Michael South. And we together will do a transformational thing. And that we in this chamber together will continue to do transformational things because that's what it's about. You have to ask yourself where you are. Where do you want to be? What will help you get there? What will prevent you from getting there? You're going to maximize the things that help you get there, reduce the things that prevent you from getting there, and that is how you go about doing business. And so I listened to the budget presented by the Honourable Prime Minister. That was a people-oriented budget. It was, Mr. Speaker, sir, a budget for the people, and I am glad it's for the people because I know there are people now in Britainsill, in the Bayland, in Charleston, Bradford's Gap, Paddock Road, Dayton, who are very, very happy that my Prime Minister today has made it so that people who make $35,000 or less in a year will not be having to pay income taxes. In essence, it will be net of zero. I know that they are happy, and that is why when the call is made for us to stay the course, I am pleased to stay the course. Mr. Speaker, sir, I am also pleased to hear that people who have invested money in CLICO are getting back a little something, because I know a lot of poor people who put their money in CLICO, and they're getting all of it back. You know, I always say, Mr. Speaker, sir, that sometimes perhaps we come to Parliament or we go to the streets and we do things and perhaps we make it look too easy. Because we are doing the things that the former government said were impossible to do. And we have done it in 10 months, Mr. Speaker, sir. When they said it was impossible to give back free education at the university, we did it. When they said, Mr. Speaker, sir, that you couldn't handle the CLICO issue, we've done it. When they said public servants could not get a raise, we did it. All of these things, Mr. Speaker, sir, in 10 months, and Barbados must remember the amount of things that we have been able to achieve in just short 10 months. And that perhaps we make it look too easy. But you know, there are some people who you will never be able to please. And I, as I said in the beginning, you know, the most that I'm hearing about this budget is that it is fair, and that it is reasonable, and that is why I wish to associate myself with it. But you know, in the international environment, Mr. Speaker, sir, I spent a few days in Romania just the other day. And I was there at the time when the European Union blacklisted Barbados. when the European Union determined that, notwithstanding all of the steps that we made, the decisions that we took, everything that we did to be compliant, that they still felt they had the right to blacklist the country, bordering very closely to treading on the country's sovereignty. And Romania now is president of the European Union. And while I was there, the representatives of the EU came to me, of the Romanian government came to me, and they said to me, I am so sorry for the way Barbados is being treated by the European Union, because Barbados has done nothing wrong, Mr. Speaker, sir. But you see, Mike, as the Prime Minister said, is right. And they feel that they can treat the countries in any way that they want. But I'm saying all this to say that we have been able to come and yet achieve, even in the most difficult of circumstances. And what did we inherit, Mr. Speaker, sir? When we inherited the government, when we inherited Barbados, we found Barbados in many ways in a state of rot and a state of decay. And it is evident, you could pick any ministry, any government department, go through any of them, and you will see that in the last 10 years, things went from good to bad to worse to worse. Worse, according to my honourable friend. I could not believe the state in which I found things. And Mr. Speaker, sir, it was not only because Barbados did not have money. It was because people did not care. The people who were voted in to look after the interests of the people of Barbados had no interest in the people of Barbados. That is what happened in this country. And I want to tell you two things tonight. I want to tell you about a crane that was bought in fisheries, a brand new crane for $700,000 a hoist to lift boats out of the water, Mr. Speaker, sir. Brand new, bought about 10 years ago. And it was never used, Mr. Speaker, sir. It was never used once. But if that was not bad enough, they left the crane in the yard at fisheries for 10 years to rot and to rust. So the crane now has to be repaired before it can be used, Mr. Speaker, sir. A brand new crane, a hoist. But this government has or the former government had a liking for cranes, because then the Prime Minister would have told you yesterday that they turned around and then they bought a new crane in the port for almost $27 million. You understand? For almost $27 million, Mr. Speaker, sir, and you still got to assemble it and put it on the civil works, so it can come to about $30 million. But that the crane they bought for the port is too big for the port. And if they were to attempt to use it, it would overhang on the side. You understand? So they bought a crane for $27 million that can't use in the port as the port stands. So now we have to do additional work in the port to accommodate the crane. And yesterday, because the crane is so big, and they were trying to offload it off the ship yesterday, it meant that a cruise ship that was coming in, because this ship had to be so big to accommodate this crane, and then the crane itself is so big that the cruise ship could not come in. So the passengers on the cruise ship had to stay out there for over an hour, Mr. Speaker, sir. And they lost the opportunity, well, we lost the opportunity for them to go on the excursions and to see Barbados, and for taxi men to get work, and for people who sell food to be able to say they sell a food. Because the government was so short-sighted. These things have consequences. So when we come into Parliament and we tell the story of what happened in the last 10 years, it is not because we just want to tell stories. It is because what they did have separated ordinary people from the capacity to live in Barbados, Mr. Speaker, sir. It is wrong. It is wrong, you know, but they really do have a love for these exorbitant things. I was in a meeting one time and I heard a former member of the government say, well, we are politicians, you know, we're supposed to build big things. That's how they saw governance, building big things. Anyhow, but Mr. Speaker, sir, for me, That is not right. I did not come to government to do those things. I came to be part of a transformational body. I sat in opposition with a bunch of men and women, all 30 of us, with the same vision, Mr. Speaker, sir, or so I thought, to transform this country in a way that would empower ordinary people. I felt that it was my solemn duty when I had the opportunity to be able to do something for people. I must tell you, Mr. Speaker, sir, I did not know if I was going to be in the cabinet or not. But I had assumed that if I made it to the cabinet, because of my background, it would have been a social development something. And when I was offered the Ministry of Blue Economy, of Maritime Affairs and Blue Economy, I must tell you, I was very, very excited, because when we were discussing it in our meetings, it was one of the most exciting ministries to me. But you know, in everything we do, it is still about people. Yeah. But the blue economy is really about people. And this is about transforming the lives of ordinary people. I want to talk to you very quickly, Mr. Speaker, sir, about some of the things we're doing and why. When I took over the responsibility for the ministry responsible for markets, it used to be under agriculture. When I started visiting the markets, the people would tell me, well, you can't be a minister because ministers don't come in the market. The former minister never went in the market, Mr. Speaker, sir. They don't understand how... They do not understand, Mr. Speaker, sir, that at the end of the day, this is about people. The whole place was popped down. And you could pick almost any market, Mr. Speaker, sir. This is serious. You could pick almost any market across Barbados, and you would find it in a serious state of disrepair. I have visited now all of them, Mr. Speaker, sir, including Tent Bay, and Spicetown, and Oyston, and Bridgetown, and Peel. I have visited all, Mr. Speaker, sir. And I have not gone just to look, but I've gone to see what can I do in my capacity as minister with the limited resources available to me to bring relief to people. And I am pleased to report tonight, Mr. Speaker, sir, that in this financial year, not having asked for a single increase, because the money was always there. I want people to understand what was really happening, you know. The money was available, but that it wasn't being spent and many times being sent back. So that you're sending people to work in conditions that were below conditions where human beings should have to work. I wasn't born rich. I'm still in rich. I think about poor people every day, Mr. Speaker, sir. And it is shameful to watch money go back that could improve the standard of living for people who go to work to be able to feed their children. And that is why I'm pleased to report, Mr. Speaker, sir, that we have allocated, and you will see the work started, and we did not ask for more money, but we can do all of the necessary work in Bridgetown. We will do all of the necessary work in Spicetown. We will do all of the necessary work in Oystons, and most of the work in Pile Bay in this financial year, not having asked for an increase of a single cent, Mr. Speaker, sir. And I feel that is what I was elected to do, to make life better for people. I feel that every single day I go to work, I have to ask myself, how have I improved the lives of somebody else? And Mr. Speaker, sir, I meet with the fisher folk every time. I met with them up until Sunday, and then I left and I went to a church service, and I'm going back to meet with them again in 2 weeks, because I feel people should have a say in the decision-making processes that govern their lives. We can't be politicians that only speak to people when it matters to us once every 5 years. If anything is going to be sustainable, it must be that we engage people all the time. We have to be talking to the people who are involved in the sector. So when I started talking, there were some things I wanted to do, and they said to me, Mr. Humphrey, that can't work. We have to do this. We have to try this. Do you know that in the markets, the cost of running a stall in the market, you know, is 75 cents a day. 75 cents a day. That's all they pay. So when I had the meeting on Sunday, and we started talking about what we need to do in the market, they said to me, I did not say it to them, though I was thinking it. They said to me, Mr. Humphrey, 75 cents a day is too low. The country is going through hard times. We have to pay more for the use of the market because they are Barbadians. That is why I bet on Barbados every time. Because they understand that as Barbadians, they have their role to play. And we can't come in here, Mr. Speaker, sir, because we have now assumed opposition and play politics and bet against a country that we apparently love or should love. I will never bet against this Barbados. And I am never betting against this Barbados Labour Party. Because we come to work to do in and of the interests of the people. Primarily, sir, a lot of poor people. And that is why we come to work every day. But Mr. Speaker, sir, the same thing in fisheries. The same thing in fisheries. The fishermen tell me, because I go to the fishermen and I have conversations, the fishermen tell me many days, Mr. Speaker, sir, they don't catch any fish. They don't have the boats many times to be able to go out and stay out long enough to catch the fish, because now you know the fish is moving. But fish don't stay in one spot. I was at a meeting and the representative for the European Union was saying that the South Pole, the ice on the South Pole and the ice on the North Pole melting. So the waters around there getting cooler, while the waters in the Caribbean is getting warmer. So the fish moving toward those poles out of the Caribbean. They are the ones causing the climate to change, but yet they're getting the fish. They're benefiting from it. We're suffering all around from it, Mr. Speaker, sir. I feel, and the Prime Minister felt very strongly about it, that we have to find a way to empower our fishermen to be able to have better boats, better technology on their boats as well, so that they can continue to do what they love to do. And fishermen tell me that they have boats that were meant to catch flying fish out for a few days that they've adapted or they try a little thing with now to be able to go out for a little bit longer. Mr. Speaker, sir, the banks do not like to give the fishermen loans. They don't use the boat as an asset, so they can't borrow against the boat. So you have an industry, Mr. Speaker, sir, that is being discriminated against heavily. Heavily. And we have said as a government that that cannot work, and that we are prepared to create an empowerment program where we start a lease-to-own arrangement so that we get the boats, the fishermen lease them from us, and eventually they own the boats, because people in this country have to live, Mr. Speaker, sir. We have to be a transformational government. And I heard the Honourable Member for Christchurch West Central, my very good friend, speak just now about young people. And you've heard the Prime Minister speak several times about the need to make Barbados a training ground, training young people to do something new. We have to make Barbados fit for purpose. I was in church on Sunday. I go to church quite often, the Honourable Member for St. Peter. St. Lucy. I don't remember St. Peter knows better. I know that. I was in church on Sunday, Mr. Speaker, sir. And the sermon that was given, or was it when I was in church on Tuesday? You see, I'm at the church twice, Mr. Honourable Member for St. Peter. But at the service, Mr. Speaker, sir, the pastor spoke of the fact that when it was asked of Moses, Mr. Speaker, sir, that he could lead, he did not believe. He didn't have faith. When God said to Noah, go and build an ark, it didn't rain. It was dry. In fact, it hadn't rained in a long time, must be about 100 years or something. It was dry. You have to have faith to go and do something when you can't see. We are saying, Mr. Speaker, sir, we are saying, Mr. Speaker, sir, to go and do your training, build your own ark, make yourself ready, because better is coming. Better is coming. Amen. And I have faith, Mr. Speaker, sir, that better is coming. And a lot of good has already been done and will continue to be done. And I saw the passion from my honourable friend from Christchurch West Central, and I know young people will get involved in all of this. And Mr. Speaker, sir, when I look at fisheries and when I look at the markets, I said to the market workers on Sunday, you know, people have a saying, you're behaving like you're in a market, because they expect people in the market to behave in the worst possible way, conduct themselves in the worst way. I said we have to prove them wrong, because law and order must be the way Barbados operates, man. And we must have, I said to them, I want to see them in uniforms, and they agreed. Because law and order must exist in every single thing we do. When I was at St. Michael's School Sports the other night, because it was held at night, I saw the commentator begging children to come off the track. Please come off the track, about 100 times. She then had to go and get the police to move school children off the track so that people could run a race. And it took more than one police. So we could point at gun violence, but let me tell you, Barbados has a problem in all ways with law and order. And we have to restore discipline to this country, Mr. Speaker, sir. And that is why I am so happy that the Prime Minister keeps talking about discipline in the way we conduct ourselves as ministers. We must always show ourselves to be of the highest integrity, discipline in our finances, Mr. Speaker, sir, because that is the kind of government that we have to be. And that is what the times now demand of us. And I hear people keep talking and referring to the Honourable Grantley Adams and Honourable and so on. That's fine. And I read and I have a lot of respect for those men, sir, but what they gave us was the capacity to think and to believe in ourselves. That is what they gave us. And that is what we must carry forward most of all from their teaching, sir. The Minister of Maritime Affairs will also be building out berths and jetties all around the island to allow for the water taxis. But also, we are hopeful, sir, Mr. Speaker, sir, that we could have areas where these smaller yachts could dock around the coast, so tourists could see something new in Barbados. That, we believe, sir, will help stir up so much economic activity in Barbados, Mr. Speaker, sir. In fact, many of the tourists are already saying that they're welcoming and they're looking forward to it, and the amount of interest that I have across the world in people wanting to work with Barbados. You know, we say Barbados is back and it just sounds like talk, but Barbados is back. And you better believe it. I am betting on Barbados and I am staying the course, Mr. Speaker, sir. And Mr. Speaker, sir, there is something that has now captured the attention of Barbadians, and I feel I must speak to it here. When we came into office in May, in about June or July, we made a determination that we wanted to review the way we treated the single-use plastics in Barbados. In September, the Prime Minister made the announcement, after consultation with me as Minister and with the Cabinet, and I also made the announcement that we were going to ban petrol-based single-use plastics in Barbados from April 1st, 2019, for both importation and use in Barbados. And we didn't just say that because we wanted to stop people from using these things. Mr. Speaker, sir, we know that petrol-based plastics are a danger to the environment. We know that. We know, Mr. Speaker, sir, that when we did our walk through my constituency in the Bayland, and when we walked through the city and other places, and we walked through in the Honourable Member for Christchurch, East Central, his constituency, and we saw the flooding, Mr. Speaker, sir, we know a lot of it wasn't caused necessarily, but it was made worse by the fact that you could find plastic bags and styrofoam plates and cups and so on in the guttering. Mr. Speaker, sir, we understand that when a plastic bag is thrown away casually, that it stays in the environment perhaps for thousands of years or even forever. We know that if we allow things to continue as they are, we would do more hurt to this country and to the world than we would do good. As a value-driven government, we said we have to bring a ban and a stop to the use of single-use plastics in Barbados. But we've had, all through this process, consultation with the people. Mr. Speaker, sir, I have met with every possible group to discuss how we're going to approach single-use plastics. And in the beginning, I must tell you, I wanted to ban almost every plastic. But after a lot of consultation, we have brought the list down to a very manageable list. I call it very low-hanging fruit, Mr. Speaker, sir. And on April 1st, when we said we were going to ban, because in September, when I spoke to the people who import most of the single-use plastics and the styrofoam, they told me that they needed 6 months to get rid of their stock, Mr. Speaker, sir. They told me if we gave them 6 months, because we were saying January 1st, which was 3 months, if you give me 6 months, I can get rid of all of my stock. So we moved the proposed ban from January 1st to April 1st, giving them 6 months. Not on my recommendation, not on the Prime Minister's recommendation or the recommendation of the Cabinet, but on their recommendation, Mr. Speaker, sir. They asked for 6 months and we gave them 6 months. But now, Mr. Speaker, sir, we've heard the public and most of the people who import single-use plastics complaining and saying, well, you know, they needed a little bit more time. And in all fairness to them, from the time we started talking about the ban, people weren't buying it at the same rate. So the 6 months now become a little bit more time. But when the people who use the styrofoam plates in the chicken industry to put on the fresh kill said, Mr. Minister, you cannot ban the styrofoam trays, we said, okay, we won't ban the styrofoam trays. We grant those an exemption. When the persons who manufacture plastic bags said you can't ban it by April 1st, we need more time, we said, okay, we gave you to January 1st, 2020, because we heard the people. Now many vendors are telling us, Mr. Speaker, sir, that April 1st, 2019 is too soon for them. And like we made adjustments for the people who have the fresh skill in the chicken industry and for the people who manufacture plastic bags, we are making an adjustment to accommodate the vendors who find themselves in many cases stuck with a lot of styrofoam. And tonight I wish to announce, Mr. Speaker, sir, that we will be banning single-use plastics on April 1st for importation, but that we would allow the use of single-use plastics in Barbados for an additional 3 more months until July 1st, because we have heard the people, Mr. Speaker, sir. And Mr. Speaker, sir, after July 1st, though, that's it. Exactly, we're Kadir now. Because we have gone as far as we can go to accommodate everybody. I have made some very good friends who are environmentalists. And I know they're probably watching the television or listening to the radio and I'll get a million WhatsApp messages. But we have to govern for everybody, Mr. Speaker, sir. We have to govern for the environmentalists, we have to govern for the manufacturers, the importers, the retailers. And Mr. Speaker, sir, I do not feel good knowing that a lot of vendors still have a lot of styrofoam because they bought it legitimately under the impression that they could still use it after April 1st. They were misled because we never said so. But 3 more months in the whole scheme of things is not going to kill us. But it will do a lot of good for the poor people who still have to deal with the styrofoam, Mr. Speaker, sir. But after July 1st, single-use plastics of a petroleum base will not be allowed in Barbados because we have to protect the marine environment, Mr. Speaker, sir, that we all love very, very much. And in my estimates, Mr. Speaker, sir, we also had in the budget, Mr. Speaker, sir, an amount of $200,000 to be grants to NGOs. And why is that important? There are a number of young people, there are a number of innovators in Barbados. There are a number of NGOs who are doing good work and all they need is a little support, Mr. Speaker, sir. There is a group making soaps called Oasis from sargassum seaweed. They could do with some support. We hope to be able to support them in conjunction with international agencies. There are people who are making seaweed fertilizer. We hope to be able to support them too. Men who are trying to make methane gas from the same seaweed, we hope to be able to support them too. All as part of their NGO drive in an effort to give back to people, Mr. Speaker, sir. Because we have to be a government that cares. And we have said, Mr. Speaker, sir, that we support innovation. It has to mean something. And to me, the truest expression, the most genuine manifestation of our attempts to support people who are entrepreneurs in this country, Mr. Speaker, sir, is through the fact that we are putting our money where our mouth is, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Honourable Member, you're reaching wind-up status.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I'm winding up. But I just wish to conclude, Mr. Speaker, sir, by saying how thankful I really am to the Honourable Prime Minister, first of all, putting me in the cabinet, but for delivering a budget that I get the opportunity to come in the same parliament and to support, because it was a first-class budget, Mr. Speaker, sir. And many of my friends don't play politics. That's the truth. I am in a chat with some friends, and they don't like politics at all. In fact, I'm not so sure all of them vote for us. I know they're listening, and they know who I mean. I'm not so sure that they all supported us in the election. But each and every one said that this was a good budget. They said so. Because it was. And I feel that we have now to deliver of ourselves in a way that is bigger than the way we sometimes deliver ourselves, Mr. Speaker, sir. I feel that sometimes I feel like we have to do better than we do when we come in here. And I feel that the time for playing politics is done. I heard a question asked during the course of this budget, are we trying to support the transport board, or are we supporting transport? Are we trying to support the sector, or are we trying to support the service? We are trying to support people, Mr. Speaker, sir. We came here to serve in the interests of people. And to try to pick apart at these little things to gain political points is below people, Mr. Speaker, sir. And I want to thank you, Honourable Speaker, sir. I know you gave me a little bit more time. I want to say, Mr. Speaker, sir, how much I support this budget. I again wish to thank the people of St. Michael's South who allowed me to be here. And I tell you, stay tuned. Oh, Mr. Speaker, sir, let me say very quickly before I close. On Monday, we will be debating the legislation, the bill as it relates to the ban on single-use plastics. And I will be able then to shed a lot more light on what we're doing in the maritime industry and the blue economy. And then, Mr. Speaker, sir, we could speak to some of the more substantive issues in this area. But I really wish to thank you for the extra time, and I wish to thank my colleagues for delivering themselves so well. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member for St. Philip West.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You know, this is really a good day, good evening, a good night. Let me first congratulate the Honourable leader of this party, leader of this country, for a budget that not only shows the ability to work out mathematics and GDP and all of these sort of things, but for one that took into consideration the plight of the people of this country. A budget that had input from my colleagues, and I wish to simply put it in 2 words, because a member of my constituency in St. Philip West said to me only yesterday that when she witnessed what was done, the two words that came to mind were well done. She used the immortal words of the mighty Gabby. She said, well done. And I want to relay that to the members of this party. Well done. But I also want to take this opportunity, though, to help the leader of the opposition to come into the light, because I listened to him and he's living in darkness. And the thing is that you can't fault a person for not knowing, because if you don't know, you just don't know. And it would be remiss of me not to try to shed some light on some of the things that your colleagues, and you mentioned their names, gave you pointers to talk about. Now, let me just go back a little bit to put it into context. You're a man of the cloth, and you obviously dabble in the Bible. There was a time in the Bible when Moses was taking people out of Egypt and across the desert. It was going into uncharted territory. Some of the people became scared and they wanted to go back into Egypt. Christopher Columbus, looking for a new world, faced mutiny because his sailors were fearful at a point in time when they weren't sure where they were going. But he knew, and they came, and we have what we call today the Americas, South and North, and these Caribbean islands. This party is taking an entire country through uncharted waters, something that it has never faced ever in its existence. A kind of depression economically, and in some ways, one that has stripped this country of its pride. It has stripped it of its productivity. It has stripped it of its confidence. And so it may seem to some of the naysayers that this is, again, something that they do not understand. But the good thing about it is that the members of this party understand. And you would have heard the Honourable Prime Minister say, we got this. And we got this. And the message is to the people who went out to the polls and put their faith, their trust in this party, not in your concoction, not in the Democratic Labour Party, but in the Barbados Labour Party. They went out and voted unanimously for the people that you see in this chamber. You, sir, were one of them. You, sir, were one of them. There's a document here, your name, signed on it.
Honourable, please.
Sorry, Miss.
Don't make reference to you, sir. He is the honourable member.
The honourable member.
Michael West.
My apologies, teacher. The honourable member, the honourable leader of the opposition, was a signatory to that document, and so he knows well. Right. Well, he is a signatory to it, but he knew very well what he was signing on to, because he was, there it is, because he agreed also with what was presented in it. But I find it interesting, and I really want to just simply say that I've sat in this honourable chamber for about 10 months now, and I've noticed that on a number of occasions, the honourable leader of the opposition will take his little jabs at certain persons and other things, but whenever it appears to me that whenever it is reciprocated, that it seems to be a problem. Now, from the time I was a child, I was always taught that people who live in glass houses should not throw stones. And I will say to you, through you, Mr. Speaker, I would say that just like in the Bible, there was a man called Judas. And Judas, Mr. Speaker, sir, Judas made a decision, and after he made the decision, he had I would say, a dose of conscience. And we all know how that story ended. One of the things that we don't talk about very much in that story is that Judas was a pawn, and he was a pawn of some unseen hands who wanted the end of Jesus. I will say, through you, Mr. Speaker, to any of us in here, that any time at all that you find yourself, and I'm going to say it slowly, you find yourself owing to anybody, and I'm going to say it again, any time that you find yourself owing to anybody, you will live to regret it after. That's all I was saying. You will live to regret it after. But, putting all of that aside, I want to now begin to help the Honourable Leader of the Opposition to understand what the Ministry of the Creative Economy, Culture and Sport is doing. He asked about monies within our budget document. As a new entity, just as the Ministry of the Blue Economy, the Ministry of the Creative Economy is also a new entity. There has never been one in the history of this country. What you don't want to do, and I took a lot of what you said and I listened to it very carefully. But one of the things that you don't want to do is to believe, as many a politician all across the world has believed, that every problem is solved by just throwing money at it. Money alone will not solve problems or create solutions or better ways for persons or institutions. What the Ministry of the Creative Economy is trying hard not to do is to come across as another entity that continues to duplicate what is already in the marketplace. For instance, if you are talking about funding, and you mentioned that the banks and other institutions find it hard to leverage anything for artists. You are correct. I have lived this life for over 30 years. I know it better than anybody else in this room. I've lived it. It ain't coming out of a textbook. It's coming out of being on the ground and living it. And I'm saying to you, Mr. Speaker, that you have funding institutions that were established under this Barbados Labour Party, such as the Growth Enterprise Fund, Fund Access. You also now have the Honourable Member for St. George South with trust loans. In the NCF, there is the business development section of it. These are there to help artists and creatives in terms of funding and training and being able to transfer knowledge. And so when you spout numbers, when you talk about, and the examples that you used were completely out of context. If you are going to talk about what the economy in England does or the economy in the USA does, Mr. Speaker, you cannot, and I say this again, you cannot put Barbados in the same category. You first have to understand from whence those markets grew. When did they begin? How many years did it take them to get to the point to where they are when they generate the kind of income that they're generating now? Barbados is at a beginning end. It's in the embryonic stage. It would be unwise to compare what we are about to undertake with places that have established these things for many a year. It does not make sense. And as the young people would tell me in the place where I used to work before, stop pelting out fish. Stop pelting fish. The time must come when, if you are going to make a statement about something, research it. Yes, anybody can go on a computer and pull down numbers. It's not hard. I could do it myself. But you have to understand within the context of what it is that you're doing. And this ministry, and I'm going to talk about it here now. This ministry, for the last 4 months, has been in deep discussions and negotiations with persons in Ghana, looking for areas where our creatives, and not only those persons in the cultural industries, but in other things such as agriculture and others, creating opportunities which are going to be of great benefit to this country. But you can't just jump in here and willy-nilly and throw out money. You got to go inside and do surveys. You got to understand what the market will take. You got to understand what the spending power is. What are the trends? And that is what we are doing at this particular point in time. And you spoke about building, and he spoke, Mr. Speaker, the leader of the opposition. Yes, the Honourable Leader of the Opposition. He spoke about festivals and the creations of things, but where's the manifesto? All those things are already in the manifesto. Are you telling me? I mean, are you telling me you should read it? You sign it, you should read it. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You know. So when, but that's what I'm saying. You should read it, because all of those things are part and parcel of what we're supposed to be doing. But like any good general going into battle, you have to survey the land. You have to know what steps you're going to take to get to your ultimate destination. And so we are preparing that land, so to speak, in the ministry. And when you talk about the creative economy, it was said that this creative economy, as you know it, was limited to almost, and this is the understanding that I got, that it was limited only to art and artistic endeavors. But the creative economy, if we stop to think about it, crosses every possible thing. You spoke about intellectual property, of course, it is that. But it's also a lot more. And if there's anything at all that you can think about that you can monetize, that is the creative economy. We talk about using the resources in the sea. That is the creative economy. You talk about the Honourable Member for Christchurch, West Central. He spoke about the young people and the ideas that they come up with, and the things that they're doing. Oftentimes, there are things that people in my age group, and certainly in the age group, a lot of people here probably would have never thought about, because the environment within which we grew up was completely different to the environment that they're growing up in now. And the things that they're exposed to by using technology, we were not exposed to those things. And so it's not as simple as one would try to make it out to be. But I also want to say that the measures that have been taken by this government, it is not it's not unknown. The general populace of Barbados knew exactly what it is that we came in facing. If I put it in simple cricketing terms, we got a bad wicket, an extremely bad one. But if you look at what this government has achieved in 10 months, it is phenomenal. And I'm not saying that everyone has to agree with everything, because you don't. You have a choice. You may see things differently. But the thing is, this government has taken a path on which all we are asking the general public, including the Honourable Leader of the Opposition, stay the course. Give it a chance to work and reap the bounty at a later date. None of us sitting in this chamber were born big. Let me put it plain. You first have to learn to creep, then you walk, then you run. It is the same thing with almost every possible thing that you can think of in life. There's a concept, there's a growth period, and if time passes long enough, there's a decay and a dying. That is the cycle of life. It is the cycle of every possible thing that you can think of. And we are as I said before, we are in the stage where this government had to take decisions. But every decision that has been taken has been in the best interest of this country that all of us live in and love. And so, Mr. Speaker, I believe that in the not too distant future, the people of Barbados will begin to not only feel, because already I know people on the ground feel better about their country. They feel more confident about investing in it, and it's not just in investing money, but in investing time, in investing ideas into seeing this country get back to a place of prosperity, to get back to a place of respectability in CARICOM and in the rest of the world. And my colleagues, one after the other, have talked about Barbados being back. And the thing is, yes, it's a fact. We are back. But you can't look at what we are doing without looking from whence we've now come. To do that is to have a partial picture. And that's correct, an incomplete understanding, which has been exhibited here tonight. But this is what we were voted for. This is what people asked of us, in fact demanded of us, to settle this country, stabilize it, and then put it on a path of growth. And that is exactly what we are doing. And so, Mr. Speaker, I am excited about the prospects of the future. I am excited about the prospects of the ministry that I have the honor of leading at this particular point in time. If you go around, you'll probably begin to see a massive cleanup on playing fields across this country. That is the first step in being able to prepare particular grounds in strategic places, not only to get our young people involved in more sporting activities, to get them more involved in cultural activities, but to begin to make Barbados a hub for sporting endeavors. We are seeking to do things that should have been done many years ago, but for some unknown reason, maybe people lack the confidence to even go after it. But if you're talking about the things that we take for granted the sea, our weather, the friendliness of our people, and other things. And these are the things that are going to help to pull us out of the mess that we found ourselves in. When you look at the opportunities that exist for us to get simple things like cricketing and football teams, even if you went from the UK alone to this country to use it as a hub for training, the benefit that comes out of that by getting people here to see what we have to offer other than that. The simple things in knowledge transfer. And I spoke earlier about Ghana, and I give you a little heads up. In Ghana, something that we take for granted here on this island, a simple thing is a breadfruit. Nobody in Ghana eats it. They use it to feed pigs. And we are now in discussions with them in being able to send chefs over there to teach them how to use breadfruit, how to simply take it to make breadfruit flour, things that we take for granted. Would you believe that a simple thing like a sweet bread is an enormous thing in another country, where someone having the opportunity to taste one from Barbados is now asking us if we can send people up there to help them with a bakery? But these are the things that when you talk about the creative economy, it is about thinking outside of the box and looking to see what are the things that we've not monetized to the best of our ability, and that is what we're doing. But as I said before, you have to prepare the ground to do it. You have to. So it's not as simple as coming into this chamber and trying to suggest that this minister is out of his depth, because I understand clearly what was being insinuated by the Honourable Leader of the Opposition. And Mr. Speaker, and I also understand, as I live in this country, and I understand the culture, I understand it better than most, that oftentimes when we look at artists, we believe that that is all they can do. either sing or dance or play a guitar or tell poetry or whatever it is. And so all of a sudden now everybody's an expert on what the creative economy should do or what culture should do. Everybody except the people who live it. And so I smile. I smile. I smile. Because the delivery, at the end of the day, you will be judged not by fancy words or not by being able to quote numbers, but by the delivery to the people, the region, and the rest of the world. And that is what this government is going to do. Deliver. We've set the path. We've set the path, and we'll stay the course. And in time, many of the naysayers will get on board, because this train, what does it say, Honourable Member for St. Peter, this train is a holy train. And there's another part that says this train don't carry backsliders. Yeah, that's right. That's right. And so, no, this train don't carry backsliders at all, or backbiters. But the important thing is that we have a task ahead of us. We knew that it was not going to be easy, Mr. Speaker. We knew that. We knew it from the beginning. But we also knew that we have a duty. We all live on this country, on this island. We have friends, family, children, and it doesn't matter which side of the political divide they are at. We are all Barbadians, and we are all in this together. And I want to remind people, and I have to say this, if you look across the Caribbean and we start to begin to take seriously the ravages of climate change, it does not respect any particular place, time. And oftentimes I hear people say things like, God is a Bajan, and all of these nice fancy things. But take a look next door and to see what happened in Dominica. Take a look, see what happened in St. Martin. Take a look and see what happened in Barbados. And I'm saying to you that while, yes, I understand that there will be opposition, people will have varying views, and there's nothing wrong with that. But when we set out on a path that says that, you know, I am this and you are that, be it religious, be it political, be it class, be it whatever else, these things have no respect of nothing so. And if there's ever an incident in this country, you're going to have to band together as Barbadians to deal with it in a natural disaster. Do not wait until that happens to make the right choice. You have to bandy together now, because we are, well, we've been facing an economic disaster for the last 10 years. It's not going to be easy, but we are going to do it. And we are going to do it not because we are the brightest or the best. We're going to do it because we have the right intentions. We're going to do it because we believe in what it is we are doing. We are confident in what it is we are doing. And I'm sure that the Honourable Leader of the Opposition believes in a higher power, as so do I. And because in every human endeavor at some point in time, there's a higher calling. It is more than just trying to win an election. It is more than just political rhetoric. It's about saving a nation. And if that is not from a higher calling, I do not know what is. And so, Mr. Speaker, I want all of Barbados to rest assured that whatever we do is done in the best interest of this country. It may not always be right, and life in itself doesn't always turn out the way you want it to. There are ups and there are downs. And there are some parts of this journey which are going to be a little rough. And we know that they will. But measure after measure after measure after measure has been put in place to protect the most vulnerable in this society. And we've asked those who can bear a little bit more to bear a little bit more. And if you're going to be reasonable, who in their right minds could ask for anything more? We've been dealt a hand, we've had to deal with it, and we are doing just that. And I hope that at some point in time, that when we look back at what is done under this particular party, when we look back, that we would never, ever, ever go back to a place from whence we've just come. And I'm sure that the members of this chamber, just like I do, should be proud of what we've been able to accomplish in a short space of time. And I think, sir, that the people of not only my constituency of St. Philip West, but a lot of the other constituencies will understand why they may not see their representatives in the way that they would like to see them. Is because your representatives are working. It's because your representatives are putting things in place to ensure that what we've been through in the last 10 years never sees this country again. It's because your representatives have your best interests at heart. And so, Mr. Speaker, I once again would like to just simply say that we're here, we're doing what needs to be done. We need the support of the general public, and I believe that in the not too far future, that many of the naysayers will begin to see the light and will begin to understand why we do or why we've done what we've done. And with that, I will simply say I'm obliged to you, sir.
Honourable Member for St. Michael Northwest.
Good night, Mr. Speaker, sir. To God be the glory for granting me such an opportunity to be here to take part in this budget. And I am grateful, and I wish to say thank you to the good people of St. Michael Northwest for entrusting their confidence in me to represent their interests. The measures taken by my Prime Minister, my political leader, reminded me, sir, of when I was a child and my mother had to take me to Dr. Shepard in Deacons Road or Dr. Howitt in the old cartoon complex when I wasn't well. And I remember, sir, leaving a doctor with medication, some tasting good, some tasting awful. But my mother would say to me, "Open your mouth." And the next thing, sir, I would hear, "Swallow it." Mr. Speaker, sir, it wasn't a case of forcing me to take the medication, but it was a case where my mother wanted the best for me. And I had to take the medication. And Mr. Speaker, sir, suffice to say, my Prime Minister did what was best for Barbados and the people of Barbados. "10 years of financial destruction cannot be repaired in 10 months, sir. 10 years of financial corruption under the last DLP government will go down in history as the lost decade. And we have heard it time and time again. Mr. Speaker, sir, we are not here to blame our economic situation on a global recession since the Great Depression. We are not here to cry over spilled milk and a mess created by the last government. Mr. Speaker, sir, we are here to confront it and fix it. We have a leader that is prepared to take action. We have a leader, sir, that will continue to selflessly put our country first and the people of Barbados. Mr. Speaker, sir, do you remember how fast our foreign reserves disappeared under the last government? 1.7 billion down to 400 million. Now, Mr. Speaker, sir, could you tell me how many competent prime ministers can take over a government with foreign reserve at 400 million and move it to $1.1 billion in 10 months? Yeah. Tell me how many prime ministers can get that done? Mr. Speaker, sir, can you tell me how many competent prime ministers can take over a government knowing that investors had no interest in investing under the last government, but could convince investors that her name is not Chris Sinclair and your money is safe with Barbados? Mr. Speaker, sir, can you remember the Democratic Labour Party mixing business with pleasure in Painful Street? Can you remember when the same business in Painful Street collapsed under the last government? Can you believe it took the first female prime minister to come and rescue the remaining surviving policyholders from 10 years of sleepless nights, not knowing if they will ever see their investments again? But we have a prime minister, sir, that took the initiative to put those policyholders' minds at peace and to return their investments to them in full. Mr. Speaker, sir, some of you may take this as a joke, but I never knew the meaning of stabilization when the former Minister of Finance was handling the taxpayers' money. But the first time I understand what was stabilization was when our Prime Minister, my Prime Minister, started to govern Barbados. You know, the members of businesses, the number of businesses, sir, that closed down at the hands of a wicked Minister of Finance under the last government. Businesses that were depending, sir, on VAT refunds from as far back as 2011. Businesses, sir, that cried on bended knees to the former Minister of Finance. And it took our Prime Minister, our Minister of Finance, Mr. Speaker, sir, to understand figures, sir, for businesses to get back their VAT refunds from since 2011 to 2016. Mr. Speaker, sir, we will continue to steer the course. It is unfortunate some Barbadians have had to feel the after effects of the last government mismanagement. My Prime Minister was not happy about it. You know, Mr. Speaker, sir, what my Prime Minister did? My political leader invested $10 million in small businesses and aspirant entrepreneurs in this country through the trust loans, so that those persons that are unemployed and, like I said, that suffer the after effects of the mismanagement under the last government could still have hope and give them the ability, sir, to start their own businesses. And, Mr. Speaker, sir, I have constituents that could not even get back their income tax refunds from since 2011. And would you believe that the former Minister of Finance would hold on to the taxpayers' money and cut the taxpayers' refunds from $1,300 to $650? And I was wondering, sir, if he did that to see how much more money could have disappeared or go missing under his watch. Because, Mr. Speaker, sir, the high level of financial mismanagement that took place under the last government, there are still people in this country, Mr. Speaker, sir, that do not understand the seriousness of the financial challenges that this government have to face in order to fix the financial damage that was done by the last Minister of Finance under the last Democratic Labour Party administration. And I said that to say, sir, that I am happy that my constituents will benefit from July 1st, 2019, to be able to get back their income tax return and be comfortable. And, Mr. Speaker, sir, I can honestly say that we are a government that have the interests of the people of Barbados at heart. We believe in being able to put money back into the people's pocket. Not in our pockets, back into the people's pocket. And we are not like the corruption addicts under the last government, sir. And, Mr. Speaker, sir, I really have to support this budget. And I could honestly say, Mr. Speaker, sir, that the old people always say that 3 to 1 is murder. And these are 3 failed budgets under the last Minister of Finance, compared to one meaningful and prosperous budget under our Prime Minister, sir. And they say that to say, sir, there's a big difference between incompetence and competence. And Mr. Speaker, sir, I want to assure Barbados and my constituents of St. Michael Northwest that we will continue to stay the course. We, the Barbados Labour Party, will continue to stay the course, Mr. Speaker, sir. Better days are ahead, and the future is bright. And we will put Barbados back on the map where it was before we left office in 2008, sir. And with those 2 words, sir, I oblige to you.
Honourable member, for St. Michael Northwest, I wish to commend you for your exhilarating speech in this honourable chamber. I have watched you progress, and I am very thankful that I am watching progress in this chamber before my very eyes. I'm really Honourable City of Bridgetown.
Mr. Speaker, that brings us to the end of proceedings for the day, and I beg to move that the Honourable House be suspended until 9:30 a.m. tomorrow.
The question is that this honourable chamber be suspended until 9:30 a.m. in the forenoon. All those honourable members in favour, please say aye. Aye. Those against, please say no. Me think the ayes have it. This honourable chamber stands suspended until 9:30 a.m. in the forenoon.